Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is back on assignment. I'm gonna show some. Thank you, Charles. But I know everybody else asked it. He's like, man, where, like Carmen Sandiego, where is Mike this week? I said, well, he sent proof this time, so he gonna make sure. He wanted to make sure see his funds from his refund check that he gets for travel. It was on hold because there was a paperwork missing, right? And so I was a little nervous because I didn't get the paperwork. Usually I get the paperwork, no big thing. I guess he was just traveling so much he probably hid some stuff and kind of missed out. But he sent paperwork, pictures. He was on assignment in Orlando, so on Tuesday I'll show the whole course in the class to make sure, because people were asking questions. I think they were legitimately worried. So welcome back, Mike. And then we got BJ Jones with the biggest smile, sarcasm. I think he was sending everybody a message last week. You got to understand his sarcasm when he was telling everybody where he had a chance. And, you know, that team down there. You know how you big up somebody? This is the last thing I say before I open the show, because I want to clear this out. That was the utter first half, all right, somebody decided to come play. Somebody, the band, the fan. But outside of that, when you look at everything, that was just the other, utter failure in all capacities. Southern just did what they did, particularly owning Prairie View in their stadium. I don't get it where you can win more against Southern on the road in the last 10 years than you can do at home in a beautiful brand new stadium. It's like now they want to call it Mumford West or something. What the hell kind of, and the shit is like being true. So with that being said, use my language there, but what is it? And what was sad, Charles warned. He said, man, come prepared, whatever. And I was like, yeah. So I sent it out there. All the Prairie View folks were prepared. They came in, had more RVs than they had other than homecoming. They had more RVs. They were loud. They had talk noise all week. They got in the stadium early, like Charles said. The new AD had it easier to get in the stadium. So people were there earlier. They got in earlier. They were prepared. They were loud. They were intimidating. You even had a little fisticuffs before the game. But Southern came with more RVs. It's like they got the message. They're going to be ready this year. We got to be ready too. They came with more RVs than before. I'm like, what? They came even louder in response to Prairie View's loud. The band is always solid. Prairie View's band was more solid. They were more prepared, but it sounded like Southern's band was like, we gonna be even more ready. So they came in more ready. And then all of a sudden the second half happened and the rest is history. 35-0 outscored in the second half. And you talking about people, all they could do is go back and tailgate, which they stood. They didn't just leave. They went back and tailgate, but I tell you, it was a lot of drinking for the wrong reason at the tailgate for Prairie View. I'll leave it right there. So I don't want to say nothing else about the matchup. I'm going to let the experts get into it. But while we're doing it, welcome to episode 315 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab Radio Show and Podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU drafts, all things HBCU sports from institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports stories, athletic programs and business of HBCU sports. Insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics. We just call it HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, back from assignment, Charles Bishop, as well as BJ Jones and Joshua Sims Jr. Hey, I understood what you said now, Brother Sims, because the second half, I guess they decided to go up tempo and we just wasn't ready. So I need to borrow that film that you taught us with, so I can go send it to the coach and be prepared next time. We're filming from our home studios and sitting in Signal Live at KCOH 1230 in the studios with radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper, beautiful home of Texas Southern University. Texas Southern University won a close. Got it done. Overtime, boy. Some good games yesterday. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THC Agents. THC Agents are a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. I'm going to go to each of y'all. Just one. I just want one game. I know you want to get into multiples. We'll do that throughout the show. But who made a statement yesterday? And it could be a statement in the affirmative or a statement in the negative in terms of what you saw of all the matchups. Starting with you, Charles. What was your biggest takeaway from week number 5 in HBCU sports?
I think when you had everything on the line yesterday, Southern responded. I said that, you know, they could be looking towards basketball season if they didn't win that game. and they did. You know, hats off to them. They went into a hostile environment. Like you said, they were louder. They counterpunched. And the second half, they took over that game. And you know, that's the mark of a championship sort of caliber program, that when, you know, the chips are down and everything is stacked against them, they do what they need to do to come back. So I definitely think the Jaguars sent a message yesterday.
Good point. Go to you, Mike Washington. What was your thoughts of yesterday?
Hold up. Let me put the white Hennessy away. Hold up. Man, we took 4 L's yesterday. We lost in the tailgating. We lost in the band. We dang sure lost on the field, and we lost the fourth quarter. I'm not a band aficionado. That'll come on our show later today. But to me, that sent a message that they're coming out in the second quarter with that fast break offense or that no huddle, just caught Prairie View on their heels. They exposed Prairie View. It's a known fact that Prairie View has trouble passing past 8 yards, has difficulty, and they exposed that. They sat back. They had the right coverage. The free safety played adequate. Their defense was ready, and that's my point. And to me, they put the SWAC on alert that, hey, this is a solid Southern team. Bashawn McCray, he had a solid game as well. I forget his stats, but the young man played a tremendous game. It looked like a totally different game that second half. And I agree with my compadre CB there. They put the SWAC on notice for sure.
BJ Jones, what was your thoughts?
Oh man, for me, man, it was the game that I was at on yesterday, man. Jackson State and Alabama State, and to be a champion, man, you got to find ways to win when the game doesn't go according to plan. Sometimes the atmosphere is a little, you know, coach call those dirty, smelly atmospheres. Sometimes you don't play your best, but you got to find a way to put it together, and you got to give Jackson State credit of putting together. And Shedeur Sanders, I know people look at the score and say Shedeur didn't have his best game, but in the fourth quarter, during the 17-12 ball game, he took Jackson State on the drive, and he either scrambled to move the chains and made the correct throw every play on that drive. And that was a signature Shedeur Sanders drive yesterday. So I'm going to roll with Jackson State.
Appreciate you. Great comments. Let me go to you, Joshua Sims. What were your thoughts?
Man,
you told a couple of folks about don't lose that game, Morgan State Bears. I wonder if you go in there because that was a classic.
You know, that's exactly where I'm going, Doc. It was an interesting day in the MEAC yesterday, to say the least. On one side, we learned that to be on the top half of the MEAC is a week by week thing. Morgan State was in my top 10. Morgan State was rolling, had an out of conference victory, and they let 0-4 Norfolk State walk into Hughes Stadium and beat them on homecoming. And really, honestly, I mean, up until maybe the quarter and a half in the second half, man, Norfolk was really beating the brakes off of Morgan for the most part, man. And it was starting to look a little bit disgusting, to say the least. But at the same token, we learned a little bit about that South Carolina State team down in Orangeburg yesterday too. Fam jumped out on them. Kudos to Fam. But where some inconsistency came in South Carolina State, and that old savvy ball coach that they got down in Orangeburg found a way to fight back. Still in a losing effort. And they've got a non-NCAA program coming in next week in Virginia Lynchburg. But man, I was a little bit perplexed, man. The MEAC, we got a chance to sit back as the Eagles and kind of get some rest and look and see what was going on yesterday. And things look a little bit more interesting with this nationally televised game we got coming on Thursday. So I was a little surprised there, Doc, just to say the least.
I'm glad you pointed out that national televised game next Thursday. We'll get into that the last quarter of the game, but well done in terms of leading into it. And good call in terms of that as you look at it. And we'll take a deeper look in terms of that Morgan State, Norfolk State game. But you're talking about a classic, and coaches will tell you all the time that the game is not over until it's over. For a team that hadn't had a win, getting down early, homecoming, boy, you talking about facing adversity. That was good. Let me give you the top 5 poll rankings for Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Huddle Report. We had some big-time matchups. I just want to give you the score of the top 5 teams before we get into those matchups and take our first break. You had number 1 Virginia Union defeat Elizabeth City State. CIAA matchup 49-0, so they shut them out. Lane, sitting at number 2, did not play as they get into some big-time conference matchups next 2 weeks to see if this is the Lang of last year or have they rectified the concerns that put them in that deeper swirl. So we'll get some big-time matchups and see what that looks coming up, at least starting this week. You had number 3 Benedict that just continues to roll. They beat up on Miles like everybody is, but they're doing what they're supposed to do when they have their opportunity. They win 20-3. Another team that is hard, I guess they like Bowie of the last year, yesteryears when they just continue to win and get so old that you forget about them and you just talk about these other matchups. But Albany State at number 4 defeats Edward Waters University 55-7 to get that done. And then we had that top 10 matchup that we all talked about. Virginia State was rolling. Bowie State, we were asking, are they ready to give up their era on top of the hill? They fought back. So Virginia State lost at number 5, lost to number 8, Bowie State University 41-14. They jumped out early in that matchup and didn't look back, and that was Virginia State's homecoming. So that was interesting for the Bulldogs to make a statement that don't put the dirt on us yet. Going to the major division, as I like to call them, Jackson State defeats Alabama State for their homecoming. That was a 1 versus 8, 26-12. Tough matchup, but Jackson State gets it done, as BJ alluded to. Sometimes you have to be able to show that you're a champion and go on a roll when you get punched to punch back, something that Mike said didn't happen at Prairie View. At number 2, you have Prairie View going down at home to Southern, 45-13, outscored 35-0 in the second half. At number 3, you have Alcorn State. That late game, many people may have been tailgating so much they forgot their game on. It was a slugfest, but Alcorn State does what they do. They just continue to run the ball. They pounded Valley into submission 30-7 on the road. At number 4, you have FAMU making a statement in some ways, taking on South Carolina State. Yes, this might be not the same South Carolina State that you thought going into the year, but anybody will tell you Orangeburg is always a tough place to play, especially with a team in a lot of ways that felt a little desperate. And you saw that in the matchup. They jump out 20-0, but South Carolina falls back 14 and had the ball 20-14 with a chance to take a lead. FAMU gets an interception and ultimately runs out the clock and stops South Carolina State on 4th downs to get it done. And number 5, North Carolina Central was open. So let's get into it. After our first break, we'll get into some of these mid-major matchups of my top 10 programs that we talked about last week and told you to keep your eyes on it. We have the experts right here with us, and they're going to go inside the numbers, inside the matchup, and tell you what happened, what you needed to look for that you might not have seen yourself. Stay tuned. We'll be right back as we got some big-time HBCU football, mid-major, major divisions, and we're going to tell you everything you need to know. Stick with us as we'll be right back after this first break.
We are making the virtual HBCU experience available wherever you live through Stillman Online. We offer online degrees in business, criminal justice, psychology, and religion. Stillman also offers technology badges in cybersecurity and data analytics. You can participate in all student activities, fraternities and sororities, internships, graduation ceremonies, and much more. Apply for admission today at stillman.edu. Stillman College, where we prepare you for a different world.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients. Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. As I promised, the guys are still here. They did not roll off. As I told you, as they prepared to give you a breakdown in all facets, we're going to start with the mid-major as we do. Let's get into this Morehouse-Tuskegee Classic, long-time classic as they've been playing. Tuskegee at number 10 gets it done. They improved to 4-2, 3-0 in SIAC play. They're rolling right now as they defeat Morehouse Maroon Tigers, who are struggling. 0-6 on the season, 0-3 in the conference race, 31-14 final. In Birmingham, as this is the second iteration as they move from Columbia, as you know. What are your thoughts on this matchup, B.J. Jones?
I mean, the biggest thing is, man, Tuskegee looks like a completely different football team than what they looked, those first couple of weeks. Reggie Ruffin really has that team gelling. Defensively, they were solid, limiting Morehouse to only 14 points. That Tuskegee team, man, they look like they're on a collision course with Lane about who's going to represent that Western Division of the SIAC in the championship game.
Talking about Lane, perfect lead in, B.J. Jones. Lane played yesterday. Remember last week we were all up here talking about praising Lane with the major upsets. They get back into conference play. At number 9 as they jump in the top 10 for the first time this season. But then those Kentucky thoroughbreds start to kicking, and they get it done on the road at number 9 Lane, who dropped the game 31-26. So Kentucky thoroughbreds improved and earned their first victory of the season. They proved a 1-4, a 1-1 in conference race, and Lane Dragons dropped to 3-3 and 2-1 in the conference race. As B.J. Jones says, this does not put them out of the conference race, but this has to be a stunner for them in some ways. But that's why you play the games. Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup between Kentucky State and Lane Dragons?
Yeah, so you wondered, Lane keeps fluctuating in the SIAC, but yesterday, kudos to Kentucky State, 332 yards of total offense. Lane actually had 263 yards in the air, but only 99 on the ground. So you got to give it to Kentucky for a solid fall game. So on the kickoff, you had Darius Kirkland. He returned the ball for 50 plus yards, putting his team on the 31, and then they scored about 4 or 5 plays later on a 3 run. So they were able to move the ball up and down the field. And here's the kicker. If you look at that game, Kentucky had the ball 3/4 of the game, 41 minutes on the clock, but versus Lane only having the ball 18. You can't win the ball. You can't win a game unless you have possession of the ball for a good period of time. So
good points made there. Let's stick in the SIAC and go to Charles Bishop. Savannah State had their homecoming, and they brought in everybody's favorite homecoming. It says Virginia Lynchburg, but it may surprise some. They got it done. They proved a 3-2, 1-1 on the season as they defeat Virginia Lynchburg, 0-6 on the season. But it was just 28-14. I was a little surprised with the overall number. It seems like Virginia Lynchburg continues to get better, so credit to them in terms of literally not quitting on the season. But I was somewhat surprised, as this is, as you alluded to earlier in the show in the first quarter, that this is a non-affiliated NCAA team, but they just keep chugging along. Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of Savannah State getting the win, but just the way they got it, 28-14 was the final?
Yeah, I mean, Savannah State got the win, but credit Virginia Lynchburg for some fight. And it looked like for the first 30 minutes of this game, Savannah State had messed around and picked up the wrong homecoming opponent going into halftime down 7-0. But credit to them, they were able to get rolling once they came back after the break. But, Virginia Lynchburg had a fake punt in there, got a first down, and kept some momentum there in the first half. And if you take a look at the stats, they even outgained Savannah State in terms of total yards, 294 to 268. So they weren't a sacrificial lamb, if you will, for home. State was able to get it done.
Let's go to great points, Charles, in terms of Savannah State getting it done. They get the victory at the end of the day. If it's 1 point or 20, 40, in the win column, it just says W. And Savannah State did get that. Everybody in homecoming down there in Georgia, the bottom there in a lot of ways, they were singing all the jubilees as they get the homecoming, as you know. Let's go to Joshua Sims. This was upset for some, at least in terms of the poll ranking, but others felt that thought that it should have been the fact that this is just what you do when you are the perennial champions over the year. New coach, who cares? New coordinator, who cares? New coach for Virginia State. Bulldog says, still, who cares? Homecoming, whatever. We in here, number 8, Bowie State Bulldogs improved to 4-2. Probably one of the more important points as they go to 3-1 in conference race. They defeat number 6 Virginia State Trojans that many thought were rolling, surprising everybody. Dr. Henry Frazier III coming back to and playing his alma mater. They was like, hey, we know you. 4-2 overall and 3-1 in the conference race. And wow, check out this score. 41-14 for those that didn't quite know. Yes, 41-14. Bulldogs get it done. They said, we're not yet dead yet, and jumped out of that grave when everybody was trying to bury him. Joshua, what do you think in terms of what went on in this matchup?
Yeah, Doc, man, from one Doc to the other Doc, if I know Coach Frazier, I can only imagine the words that were being spoken after that game inside that locker room. But kudos to Coach Jackson, man, and that staff at Bowie. Man, 413 total yards yesterday. They jumped out on Virginia State 24-0 in the first quarter. And we talked about this a little bit last week when we were talking about my Eagles. Man, it's hard to jump back when you get down, 3+ possessions in the first half, man. Shout out to Deion Golat, 3 touchdowns yesterday, 3 receiving touchdowns yesterday, over 150 yards receiving yesterday. I mean, this kid was lights out yesterday. And, man, to say the least, I know that Coach Frazier did not enjoy this one bit, to have his alma mater come in and beat him on his first homecoming at Virginia State. Oh, my God, man. I mean, but when you look at the numbers, it was overwhelmingly a dominant game by Bowie State, man. Over 240 yards passing, over 170 yards rushing, man. And so, when you have those mixes like that, where that's as balanced as you're going to get in modern day football, that is when you see teams become very, very dominant. And then down the second second string and third string guys in, it still didn't let up. So it was a good game by Bowie State, man. Those Bulldogs did a great job going in and beating Virginia State at home for their homecoming. And, man, I'm looking forward to seeing what Bowie does the rest of the season, man. They made the CIAA very interesting to say the least.
As Barry Bonds said, very good to me. Well, Bowie State says very, very interesting to all. Let's get into it as we shout out some of our listeners before we go to our second break, ending our second quarter of play and get into the halftime with the marching sport as people are entertained across the country. You know, on Thursdays, we'll give you a breakdown, and we have some teams that are going to fall out of that top five, you would imagine, because we had 2 top 5 matchups that went down and a lot of entertainment. We'll get into that on Thursday, but we'll let you entertain yourself with some marching sport today. With that, let's shout out to Chuck Hunt. Michael D. Jones is in the building. Jimmy L. Wilson is telling folks that are moving around in terms of Ricky Burton, Traveling Grace. Roderick Holmes, that's Dr. Holmes, is in the building. Shout out. Who else we got? Regina Johnson says, Valley shut down my Mack truck for 3 quarters, but in the fourth quarter, all the momentum shifted in the favor, and it was over from there. Yes, you talking about shifting a high gear going into that mountain. Credit to the Braves. They just do what they do. They keep rocking. Michael Lee just crying off on stuff, folks up in here acting as if the Valley blowout was the game of the year. Hey, let the smack talk begin. That means next week in fourth quarter, they won't even wait till we get there. It's another one of those showdowns. Interstate rivals with Mississippi and Louisiana. This time, it's Alcorn and Southern, and Alcorn goes back to the scene of the crime. We'll
absolutely. Absolutely.
They don't get in and talk to you a little bit more about that. That should be fun. But we're going to tease it out. We got a little time for that. These folks are ready to go. Lonnie Shaw, Jimmy Wilson again is in here. My Panthers took 4 L's Saturday, 3-3, overall 3-1 in the West. It's over yet. You're right. It's not over yet. Have a chance to see what's going on because things will get interesting. We'll see in terms of the next matchup. Intriguing things. We won't go too deep in this, but there was altercation before the game. You've probably seen it out there, and I think that will affect some of these matchups over the next week or two in regards to how the commissioner, we saw what took place between Jack State and Southern. He came out, reviewed the film, and you had at least a player or 2 lost for those teams. So I'd imagine something similar here. We will wait until we get official word, but just putting that out there for clarification. Karen Griffin says rolling as she is in the building. Brandon King, John Richardson. Who else is in? Travis, Tyrone Banks is in the building. Reginald Johnson getting it done in so many different ways. Great comments. Larry Rashad Jenkins. Jazzy Faye is in the building. George Walker, Jerome G. Sutton. JSU halftime show was good. Oh, credits out there. You know, I respect Jerome G. Sutton, so I'm going to listen to what he says. He will get some analysis in my Thursday marching sport framework as well as the others. G. Boom Holly says in morning. Daniel Jackson, Alan Bozeman. Appreciate you all. We'll get into our next break and come back on the other side, and we're going to talk about the major division matchups. We're going to give you a bonus and give you some extra ones on this Sunday morning. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break. Jazzy Face say, y'all guys on Sunday? Yeah, this office out. Good stuff. Let's get in here. We got quite a bit. Hampton and Maine. Anybody want to take that one? The links there. Close one, but no cigar. Ugly one.
Hampton
came in there.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Hampton was in
Hampton, Maine.
Yeah.
You'll take that, Josh?
Yeah, I'll take that one.
Good. Anybody else? We'll take one and keep rolling.
Q-Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q-Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q-Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q-Time, an Urban Passport member.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only Mobile Cigar Lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We're back with the fellas. That's Charles, Mike, BJ, and Joshua giving you insight free into the major division. This is where everybody really gets the Joneses. Great matchup. Some of them were not, baby, depending on what you had. Let's start with what we call those independent programs as we go to Hampton, Virginia, Armstrong Stadium, breast cancer awareness. This was for the classic major division game of the week. Since we didn't have a traditional classic, we went into the breast cancer awareness in Colonial. Number 7 Hampton Pirates were quietly getting it done. They were playing Maine Black Bears that didn't have a win on the season. So I was like, hey, keep your eyes on this one. Can Hampton get their first Colonial win? No. Maine Black Bears improved to 1-4, get their first win in the season, including the conference win, 1-1 in that. And number 7 Hampton Pirates fall into 4-2, 0-2 in the Colonial as they fall 31-24. Close matchup was not to be. What are your thoughts in terms of what takes place there, DJ?
Man, the biggest thing is, Hampton really had an opportunity to win this ball game. 31-24. They kept it close, which was something that a lot of people didn't think that Hampton would do. I think Hampton was predicted to finish dead last in the CAA, but to see them coming in and compete yesterday the way that they did, man, it got to give you a lot of promise if you're a Pirate fan out there.
Great point when you talk about it and look at it like that. They are playing solid. And it's always tough when you lose those close ones because you're like, hey, maybe that's it. Let's go into Nashville as we travel around the country. This is another one of those independent games. The official HBCU independent non-conference major division matchup features Tennessee State and Bethune-Cookman of the SWAC. Nashville, Tennessee, Nissan Stadium. It is homecoming. Tennessee State Tigers get it done. They improve, get their first win of the season after a tough loss to Lane. Everybody forgot that because now they're winning. They're 1-4, or at least got a win. Defeat Bethune-Cookman Wildcats 1-4 that have been on the road last 10 days or so. They fall 41-17. Couple of key plays early in that game, and they were able to stretch it out and kind of cruise, it looked like, as Wildcats fall. Mike, what were your thoughts? I know you were watching this in the suite as you were going back and forth between the games, especially when it got away in the second half. You got a chance to focus a little more. Probably wanting to look at something different, but what are your thoughts in terms of this matchup as you saw?
Yeah, I kept getting taken away. No, I thought Tennessee State, kind of had an epiphany and remembered, we are in the football business sometimes, and they had a solid game. They improved to 1-4, whereas Bethune falls to 1-4, but the Tigers found themselves down early. Bethune jumped out early, and I thought, here we go. But give it to Tennessee State. They came back 7-3. Tennessee State kept, Bethune off the scoreboard and off the field for most of the time. But then as the game progressed, here's a stickler. I always look at time of possession, and it went to Bethune. However, Tennessee State in 6 straight trips was able to hold Bethune to like 10 points. That was it. Another data point: Bethune outgained Tennessee State 381 to 300 yards, give or take. Tennessee State won the turnover battle, though, 4-3. Always got to keep an eye on that. Tennessee State, if you look at the season, had their highest number of points in a quarter. They scored 24 points in the second quarter. Tennessee State converted 6 of 10 on third down, something that Prairie View couldn't find a way to do in their matchup. I keep going back to that. Sorry, flashbacks, y'all. So give it to Tennessee State. They allowed 10 points on 6 trips. You get the ball 6 trips, you need more than 10 points to show for it. So, and Tennessee State also had a balanced game on the defensive side: 10 tackles for loss and 4 sacks. So they brought it to Bethune. Give credits off to Tennessee State on this game.
Let's go into the major division MEAC game of the week. It was the only MEAC game. Baltimore, Maryland, homecoming. Yes, I'll go back to it again. The scene of another crime. Norfolk State improves with their first win of the season, 1-5, and gets off beautifully, if you would, in the MEAC races. They're coming in at 1-0. Boy, who would have thought it? Morgan State Bears, I should say, that were receiving votes to get into the top 10. A victory would probably get them there. But they lose it. And not quite ready to understand what it means to really be a solid team after some early success. They fought back in this matchup as they went down early, but they fall to 2-3, 0-1 in the conference race. They lose the game in the last 5 seconds of the game, as Norfolk wins 24-21. Joshua Sims, tell us about the matchup. Break it down for us.
Yeah, man. And it's always a good day when I can give a shout out to my Eagles. So we won yesterday, even though we didn't play yesterday. For those who don't know, man, Dawson O'Dooms is a North Carolina Central graduate, man, head coach at Norfolk State. So to see him go in and beat who we were looking at to be possibly the next big foe, we got to play Morgan State this Thursday at home. But, man, listen, kudos to Norfolk State, man. Coach O'Dooms came out yesterday in the first quarter and a half, and threw something at Morgan State that they did not believe was going to happen. Otto Coons was throwing the ball, and he was spinning that thing yesterday. Didn't have a passing touchdown yesterday, of course, but 25 of 34 for 288 passing yards. I mean, who would have thought that Norfolk State was going to throw the ball around like that yesterday against Morgan State? And as I was watching the game, man, it wasn't like they were beating them crazy with over-the-top balls. You talking 4 or 5 yard little short passes, taking what the defense was giving them. Defense was playing off man. They were trying to go to some zone and as they kind of finished out the first half. But Norfolk State came out and kind of punched them in the mouth, man. They went in at halftime up 17-7. But then kudos to those savvy Bears and coach Damon Wilson, man. That second half looked like a totally different team and had a chance to win it there, man. They really did have a chance to win it. But again, kudos to Coach O'Dooms and that staff there at Norfolk State and those Spartans. Find a way to walk into Morgan State, man, and beat them on their homecoming when Morgan State was probably at that time, honestly, because we lost last week, they were the hottest team in the MEAC, man. They had won 2 in a row. I believe they had won maybe almost 3 in a row. So literally, man, it's a tough loss for that Morgan State staff and that team, but they'll get a chance to get their face back in the most hostile environment in the MEAC in O'Kelly Riddick Stadium this Thursday. We'll see if they can step up to the task.
Hey, I just learned something, Doc. He said Coach O'Dooms. All the years he was with Southern and playing Prairie View. It's Coach O'Dooms. Now it's Coach O'Dooms. When did the name change come?
Look at homecoming. Look, just to give you some insight, right? When Coach was able to have maybe a bye week or he was able to come back home and come to 1801 Fairwood Street, we call him O'Dooms, man. But that is because of how he played when he played in North Carolina Central. It's because of how he played. Gotcha. He was a part of that defense that we called before there was a Legion of Doom. He was a part of that defense in North Carolina Central that was wreaking havoc in Division II. And so we just call him O'Dooms. We may be saying it wrong, but then again, it's at homecoming, and everybody might be drunk.
Everybody.
I love it. You know, Monday morning, tomorrow morning on the coaching show, I'm using that. I'm saying your defense playing like coach quarterback. O'Dooms is what they told me. They call you that.
Yeah.
Tell me he gonna gonna fall out.
I totally thought it was just North Carolina dialect thing going here. I was like, oh, he's up
going off the cliff fast. Let's get over here to DJ Jones.
And that's kind of how
the second half it went off the cliff. You so right.
And that's kind of how Trey Oliver said they called him. His name was Tyrone in school, and he was like, he don't know where Dawson came from.
Yeah, he called it. Yeah. You ain't got to say what your mama sent you. The name your mama sent you to Central with. That ain't what you come back home with.
No way.
Yeah.
Now let me check this out and set this up. Mike, you enjoy this. You know Ronald Brick Peterson, my line brother, right?
Yeah.
He's in Las Vegas, has a Chick-fil-A. It's the second store that he opened since he moved, doing really well. It's on the strip out there. So if any of y'all in Las Vegas, go and support brother HBCU brother doing really well. He texts me, and I'm rolling down there. I got plans. I'm getting there early, right? Deuce has other plans, so I'm down there by myself, getting prepared. He says, "Are you going to the PV game today?" I was like, "What kind of questions? You know, I always go to the game." So he set me up. Roxanne, which is his wife, he says Roxanne's cousin plays for Southern. August Petrie. We will be there to see him play. I said, yes, 30 minutes, cool. And so I'm like, who's this Petrie? You know, whatever, you know. I look up senior, 6'1", 176 pounds, Opelousas, Louisiana. I looked him up last night after the game. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. He takes me about 14. Where you at? I said, I'm in the suite 228. It's 420. I'm ready for game time. I'm sitting up there, setting up all my TV screens because I'm finna be in the lab. Go to work, watch the game, and see what happens so I can report Sunday morning. Put out my reports to the team. Because, you know, I stay up late making sure y'all have all y'all ammunition to go to work. He says, Roxanne's cousin is clowning. PV, 2 touchdowns. August Petrie. I say, yeah, for real. So the young cat, credit to him, 3 receptions, 45 yards, 15, 2 touchdowns, big touchdowns. The first 3 touchdowns in that game were interesting to me. Mike and several people talked about this. Pretty much through the season, certainly the last couple of games, Grambling most notably, the defense for Prairie View was there. And it was so much there that you did not see teams convert on 3rd or 4th down. In this matchup, especially early when it's close and as they start to pull away, Southern's first 3 touchdowns were all 3rd down conversions. For touchdowns.
Wow.
Where you could have held them to a field goal and, you know, maybe struck nerves. I'm not sure at the end of the match it would have mattered much. But I thought that was fascinating in terms of a data point. Obviously, DJ Jones, I want to see where you go with this matchup because you look at it from a different eye space. But that was just something that intrigued me when I kept looking at it. I was like, wow, they can't get off the field on third down, especially in the red zone. And credit to Southern putting up touchdowns versus field goals, which is what Prairie View did early in that matchup. They did force Southern to one of them. But after that, it was not to be. DJ Jones, taking in whatever direction you want. And Southern at number 10 goes into number 2 at home, defeats them as Southern improves the 3-2, 2-1. As Charles said, pretty much saves the season at this point. Prairie View falls to 3-3, 3-1, and does it in such a fashion. Does it have any long-lasting occurrences? We shall see. 45-13 was the statement by Southern. DJ Jones, where are you at in terms of this matchup?
Man, the biggest thing is that this is the scary part about Southern. Southern has yet to play a game this year at 100%. Where everyone who was his pencil in the start was on the field. You've not seen 100% Southern team yet. So that's the scary part. The good part is this football team is gelling. They're coming together. You see mistakes that you saw earlier on in the season in that Texas Southern game. You don't see those same mistakes. These young men are coming together. They're gelling. And this is the big thing about Prairie View. First of all, Prairie View, that purple and gold combination is classic. I love to see that a little bit more. And when I saw that, I said, oh, man, Prairie View, they look like Prairie View. I mean, it looks good. But I was nervous about this game because I was high on Prairie View from this summer. And I still think that Prairie View, this is the thing about Prairie View, they're not out of it. Right. The way you look at how the schedule sets up, Prairie View avoids Jackson State. They avoid Florida A&M. They avoid Alabama A&M. They have an easier road. You only have the one loss, and everything else you control in front of you. Southern did a great job of limiting what Prairie View was able to do offensively. Defensively, you saw Southern get into the quarterback, frustrating them a lot. And then you saw Southern being able to make some do damage with the quarterback runs, and also, man, converting on third down. So when it was a perfect combination, those kids came out, they played hard, and then hey, once again, I got the props back here, Doc. You know what we call Prairie View, right? All right. Once again, it's Baton Rouge, Texas. Once again, Norfolk West.
Oh,
so,
man.
It creates a huge game. And we talked about how big this game was last Sunday. But this game coming up on Saturday with Southern and Alcorn, when you're talking about, man, taking over that one seat in the West, man, it's going to be huge with the Braves coming on down the month.
Yeah, no doubt. You teased that out a little bit, and we will get back into that. Probably will be the matchup that you want to talk about in our last quarter. But I hope that's an example of sarcasm that you made sure everybody knew today when you shared that shirt. But I like that. That was a good plug. Let's stay in the SWAC.
That is so wrong. I'm going back to the white Hennessy right now. Bye, y'all.
And he's not even gonna make it the breakfast version.
I'm not even gonna make it to the end of the
he's
show.
He's just a straight no chaser. With that, we're gonna stay in the SWAC. Another top 10 matchup. This time, Montgomery. It was ASU Stadium. Unlike Prairie View, this was Hornets homecoming. We talked about it a little bit all week. Montgomery, Alabama, ASU. Number one, Jackson State Tigers improved to 5-0, 3-0 in the conference race. Probably the most important part of this. Defeat number 8 Alabama State 3-3, 1-2. It was Jackson State 500th program win, which was significant in any fact. Obviously, there were some things at the end of the game that were intriguing. We'll get into that if you want to, and we'll probably get a chance to do it more this week because of time. But talk about this matchup, Charles. You were there. You saw it live. You sent me a picture that was electrifying atmosphere. You talked about how challenging it was to get in the stadium because of the traffic, much like we saw at Prairie View. So it's just good to see the interest level in these games so high for whatever reason you want to talk about. But get inside this game. What were your thoughts in terms of the matchup? Credit to the Hornets. They made it a game in terms of holding Jackson State there. Kind of went punch for punch. But it looks like Jackson State threw the last punch, and maybe I shouldn't say that in terms of what took place at the end of the game. But anyway, in a sporting context, you know what I'm saying. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, hats off to Alabama State. They played a tremendous game defensively. I thought they did a great job of bringing pressure and really taking away the deep ball, taking away threats downfield. They did a tremendous job of doing that. They have big athletic corners. They did a great job with Jackson State's receivers and not letting Dallas Daniels get deep, or I believe Willie Gaines got deep for one, but just doing a good job of keeping things in front of them and just being physical, playing a physical brand of football. But when you take a look at it, and I talked about this a little bit on Thursday, the big golden rule for Jackson State is stop the run. And I think they were able to do that, and they were able to pin their ears back and come after Demetrius Davis, come after Miles Crowley. But, it was a tremendous atmosphere, tremendous football game, tremendous SWAC football game. Of course, things happened toward the end, but just talking about Jackson State's defense, that first quarter, you're talking about punch for punch. Alabama State came out punching 106 yards there in the first quarter, but they ended with a total of 177 yards. So this Jackson State defense is the real deal. And the big thing is not allowing you to run the football. I think that's one of the huge things that is what you see about this Jackson State defense. When they're able to contain the run, they can come after you and just create havoc for you if they're not getting to the quarterback, because I think they only had 2 sacks yesterday, but they got so much pressure that they were able to just really keep Alabama State's offense in check.
Quickly, guys, I want
Yeah.
to split this up since it's a MEAC SWAC matchup. Orangeburg, SWAC, MEAC, number 4, Florida A&M improves to 4-2, 2-1, defeats South Carolina State that was receiving votes, but they fall to 1-4, 20-14. Starting with you, BJ Jones, what are your thoughts a little bit in terms of this MEAC SWAC? Big for the SWAC to get a non-conference win, especially as you saw Bethune-Cookman couldn't get it done on Tennessee State with this huge weekend that I told everybody that lived up in so many different ways. But let me get your quick thoughts on it, and then we'll get Josh's perspective as well.
Biggest thing, fam, you is rolling right now. You look at that football team; they won 4 straight now. Offensively, they're in sync. Defensively, they're in sync. You're starting to see those stars that were kind of quiet at the beginning of the year, the Isaiah Lands of the world, are now starting to make an appearance, and that bodes well for FAMU as you come down the second half of the season. And that was a big for them to go to Orangeburg to get a win over that South Carolina State team. That makes a statement not only for FAMU but the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Great point, Joshua.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts from a MEAC perspective?
Yeah, there's something to be said about kind of how that game went yesterday, man. Fam, kudos to them, man. They jumped out 17-0 at half, going into the half, came out the second half, kicked the field goal to go up 20-0. But man, as much as I would like to say negative things about South Carolina State, because we obviously have to see them later on down the road, Shaquan Davis is the real deal, man. And he's a glimmering light for that South Carolina State program right now that it's just having some inconsistencies. The quarterback position is really hurting them right now. I mean, even, outside of those 2 touchdowns that he caught yesterday, Corey Fields threw 3 picks yesterday. I mean, it's a rough situation for them down in Orangeburg right now. I can get into, a lot of different components. We don't have the time as to what I'm starting to see from that offense and from that defensive line just not being as good as they were pegged to be, honestly, at the beginning of the season. But we don't have the time on this show today, and I'll get into it later on this week. But, man, that takes nothing away from Shaquan Davis. Man, and if all else fails, throw the ball to Shaq Davis, let him make a play. He had a 44-yard pass yesterday from Corey Fields, probably the best ball I've seen Corey throw this whole season. But Shaq went up and made a play and scored. So, let me
ask this quick question. And I know they have Shaq Davis, but is the game plan for South Carolina State throwing the ball 40-some odd times? Because it's not South Carolina State football.
You know what?
I don't think he was,
that
but
question,
they got down,
not.
like you said, 20-0. What are you going to do?
And their running game, and to that point too, Brother Charles, like their running game is just not doing anything right now. They're almost doing more hurting to themselves by trying to force that running game to happen than it is just taking what it is that the defense is giving them. And right now, there is no answer for Shaq Davis. The difference is you can't win a game depending only on Shaq Davis. You're not going to beat any of the rest of the teams on your schedule. They might beat Virginia Lynchburg next week throwing the ball to Shaq Davis. But outside of that, dog, they just don't have a true answer right now. And it's because of what's happening at the quarterback position for them right now. They tried to throw in Nix yesterday, and he looked terrible. I mean, Corey Fields looked really, really bad, and I know he's got a lot of things going on, so I don't want to say anything bad about how the kid is playing, but they're reeling right now in Orangeburg, man, and it's a tough thing to see.
If anything, despite how they played, they still had an opportunity to pull that game out. Now, you look at it, Fam was penalized, 150 yards?
Yes.
A team that gets penalized like that, you got some opportunities. I mean, the score wasn't that bad at the different points of the game. They pulled 14 points in the fourth quarter, but 1.5 yards per rush. You can't get it done like that. Then you're relegated to switch to the passing game, which you're not, as you said, Brother Sim, they're not efficient at.
Oh, man, great points, great football talk. I did want to sneak out 2 more before we go to our last break and get in our fourth quarter and talk about some games to watch. So think about which direction you want to go with that. I think some of them are obvious, but we can also go off the board. Let's go into Huntsville, Alabama, in terms of that Bulldog Nation got it done. Big win. Grambling is still fighting. That game went into overtime. They traded touchdowns in overtime. And then Alabama A&M got their touchdown, did get the 2-point conversion, but they were able to stop Grambling on their try. So they win the game 37-31. Classic matchup for 2 teams that are fighting. A&M Bulldogs improved to 2-4, 2-1 on the conference race. Grambling State 1-5, 0-3 in the conference race. Lookward up, maybe just looking to be spoilers at some point this season. Bulldogs may be trying to figure out how to do it as they are still trying to figure out the win. The other one, quietly, that many people probably were not watching as much, but certainly you find out that Body finds a way to get it done in different fashions. We thought this was a team that would have put up a lot of points and the defense was suspect. Well, guess what? The defenses showed up. Offense, maybe not so much, but in this game, they did enough against a Pine Bluff team for their homecoming that certainly was fighting. The game went basically back and forth with Texas Southern pulling out, scoring with 3:31 left in the game, getting it done in so many different ways in terms of a big-time matchup as Texas Southern improves to 2-4, 2-2 in the SWAC race, defeating Pine Bluff 24-17. As Pine Bluff falls to 2-4, 0-3 in the conference race. Last one, as we get into the fourth quarter, let's get into this last break and come back on the other side and talk about some key matchups in this upcoming week. And for many of you all, the football lovers, it starts early for HBCU because it starts on Thursday. So we'll give you some updates in terms of what that looks like and get you some key matchups as things just continue to get more interesting, fascinating, as HBCU sports are living up to it in every way. Stickers will be right back after this last break.
2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Cover's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Cover's Voice, Cover's Voice, CoversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food? Like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, yeah, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I want to get back into it. Y'all got me so excited, I can't even say the name of the show. With that being said, we're going to go with our resident expert, SWAC, HBCU football guru. We got our MEAC, HBCU football guru. Basically, they just HBCU football and football in general gurus because they're just that talented. Literally played the game, coached the game, and continue to give you insight as you got BJ Jones that does the Tuesday spaces on Twitter in terms of HBCU football. And then you got Joshua Sims with HBCU Nightly on Wednesday. So you get back to back in the middle of the week. Tune on the show on Tuesdays. Go to BJ Jones on Wednesday in between the break. After you watch O&G Strike Zone, as well as the pregame show, you can get into Joshua Sims as they bring you some insights that you can't get. And they get a lot of talk. And they bring some women in that get in there and get some lather going too. Fascinating dialogue and great conversation. Check it out for those that have not been a part of it and those that are, to continue to return. With that being said, BJ Jones, what is the highlight game that you want everybody to keep an eye on that you say, hey, this is a big one?
I'm gonna say it. Southern and Alcorn. I think that Alcorn, for the last few years has had Southern's number, and this is another big matchup. Alcorn coming over to the West, and it looks like the path to the championship game. This is one of those staples, to get there. So Alcorn, man, they be coming in hot, coming off two big wins, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Mississippi Valley. But make no mistakes about it. This will probably be Alcorn's toughest competition that they've played this year outside of Stephen F. Austin. So it's going to be a nice game. Alcorn has to come to Mumford, and Southern gets an opportunity to really make a statement. So I'm really looking forward to that ball game between the Jags and Braves.
Great point. I like the way you built that in, and you talking about just old-fashioned, good old SWAC rivalry, as they say, in terms of heated matchup between state institutions. With that being said, Joshua, talk to me. What do you think? What do you want to keep your eyes on? I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, Doc. You head on with that one. I'm absolutely looking at the nationally televised game we have on Thursday, and we'll be at 1801 Fayetteville Street, right in Durham, North Carolina, O'Kelly Riddick Stadium. Morgan State coming into Durham after that loss this past Saturday for their homecoming. Man, two big points on that, right? Well, we had a chance to kind of get a little bit healthy and have some rest during this bye week, man. We got some big key guys coming back on the offensive line this weekend. So I am very, very excited. One at our right tackle, another at left guard. We got those guys coming back this week. And then we got a big piece coming back for us on the defensive side of the ball with Brandon Codrington. Apparently is questionable for Thursday night's game. So with B-Kai coming back, we get a little bit healthier in that defensive backcourt. But the second point, man, is listen, man, with the MEAC being in this kind of super six, 6 schools, you cannot afford to lose 2 games. So this week we should expect for Morgan State to come out swinging. Because they know, like everybody else knows, if you lose 2 games in the conference, it's over. You do not get a chance to kind of come back from that. So we've got to really be able to come out, and I'm looking to see which Davius Richard we're going to have show up this Thursday. Is this going to be the Davius Richard that we've seen perform inside of conference in years past? Or is this going to be the new and improved Davius Richard who's going to be ready to take this team and put it on his back and become the MEAC's player of the year this year? That's what's going to be interesting to me. And then just a quick shout out on the mid majors. Virginia Union, Bowie State this week. Big time HBCU football. Ooh.
I love it. You get into the MEAC and a little bit of CIAA. You're right. That's big time. I have my eyes up there on that one as well, especially after the big win by Bowie State. That makes that just a little more interesting because we know what number 1 Virginia Union is doing. So showtime. Let's get it on. Yes, Charles, let me go to you. What are your thoughts in terms of this matchup, in terms of what we should keep our eyes on this week, I should say?
Yeah, very intriguing matchup, at least to say, with Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman. Jackson State is going up against former Jackson State quarterback Jalen Jones, who now has the reins. Bethune-Cookman, probably one of the more dynamic players, I think, in the conference with regards to his athleticism. Even this past week, he rushed for over 100 yards. He is a tremendously fast quarterback. And Jackson State has to figure out some things in terms of starting slow. I think that has been a consistent bugaboo for this team. They've answered the bell, but they tend to start slow in the first quarter. So that's like an intriguing storyline to see if there is a game where they can come out firing all cylinders, much like they did against Florida A&M. And then, of course, I'm keeping an eye on Southern and Alcorn. I joked with you last week that the road to the SWAC championship could come through 290. Now, all of a sudden, that thing is reverse course, and it looks like it's going back towards 10 East, at least if you're from Houston, going towards Baton Rouge. So, but, the West is a wild, wild West. I think BJ touched on it earlier. One loss isn't a killer just yet. So, we'll see how this season plays out. So that is going to be a fun one. I talked about all the elements being present in Montgomery this past week with Jackson State and Alabama State. You get that all over again next week with Alcorn and Southern.
I think you're right, especially when you talk about the West. One loss is not a killer. It's the second one.
Yeah.
Just like you talked about in a lot of ways, Joshua Sims said in the MEAC. In the SWAC, it's the division of 6. Similar thing. You can't get the 2 losses. East right now, that's the tough one because it doesn't seem like you can get the 1. But certainly in the West, you can't get to that 2 And so that makes that even that much more fascinating. Let me go to you, Mike. What's on your plate? What do you say, everybody? Look at this matchup.
I'm gonna start it off with the SIAC. You got Benedict going down to Albany State. My wife's from Georgia. My folks, let the Low Country boils begin in the tailgate area. So look, I mean, you got two teams. They, both even records. You got Benedict sitting on top, undefeated. You same with Albany, but you got two teams with over 400 yards of offense per game. Data points. You got two teams that are leading in points and yards against in terms of defense. Data point. You've got a guy by the name of Zaire Scotland leading us SIAC for Benedict in scoring. Data point, which is going to come out. So it also let you know or give you an indication of who's going to have the advantage in the SIAC. So that should be very interesting to me. In addition to the Alcorn State Southern game, because if Alcorn is able to pull that game out, Prairie View, we were saying, again, this was 3 or 4 drinks in at the tailgate. we now have to become Alcorn fans. So Alcorn's able to pull that out. Prairie View has a head-to-head still with Alcorn. So all is not lost. So not so fast, my friends. 290 may still be on that trajectory somehow.
Oh wow, man! And great breakdown by all.
One more point
to the mid-major.
One more point. When BJ Jones pulled that shirt out, this is what happened. You see this? This is what happened. Thank you, BJ.
Good stuff, man. Great dialogue. Great show. Great information. Oh, not that he has to do it again. I'm like you, Mike. Let me go find my cup. I'm gonna have to drink it again this morning. I don't watch NFL football, so I can't even get my Jones on. But I'm gonna go back to work and do my HBCU reports. So I'll be ready this week and find a way to get it in. I love what BJ Jones went in there with the matchup. That's a top 10 matchup on the major division right now. It is obviously 3 versus 10, and you would imagine that Southern is going to improve in terms of what they got done against Prairie View, and Alcorn may even jump up too. So that could end up being a top 5 matchup. It's certainly going to be at least a top 10 matchup. And then, Mike, you go into SIAC country for a top 5 matchup with Benedict and Albany, 3 and 4 right now. I don't see any of them really moving. They might jump Langston since they didn't play this weekend. We'll see on Tuesday. But then Joshua Sims finds a way to give me another top 10 matchup out of the CIAA with the number 1 team facing currently the number 8 team that got a victory. So they'll probably win up. Boy, we got big matchups this weekend. Tune in your television. Find a way to catch these games. If you're in the area, go to a stadium. Find a way to be entertained by HBCU Sports. They are big time, whether you're talking about the MEAC, whether you're talking about CIAA, SIAC at the Division II level, obviously over here back in the SWAC at the FCS, along with MEAC, as I said. And then you have your independents. And the independents this year, outside of Hampton, they're playing good football, but North Carolina A&T, in terms of the Big South, they're in the heat of the bubble. Since Tennessee State got off the skins, they have not started OVC, so they even have a chance to show improve there. And you got Langston and continue to do what they get done in terms of big matchups this weekend. I'm telling you, if you can't fall in love with HBCU sports, that's not our fault. We're doing our part to give you the information, and these brothers are bad. They are spending a great deal of time to find out every inch that they can give you about HBCU sports. For you all that are tuning in, I appreciate you because you're sending love. And as I said, get ready this week because Tuesday and Thursday we'll be here with a batch of games to watch in terms of going into those numbers and let you know whatever you need to figure out. As Mike says, the data points. As Charles said, showing you what you need to know. And then BJ Jones and Joshua again. Tune in on Twitter. Jump on those spaces. Those brothers go in there and they get great dialogue. You have coaches and administrators figuring out and finding out information on it. Every once in a while, you have a surprise guest that they give them a chance to talk, to give you some insight. BJ Jones Joshua Sims Sr., they are giving you information that you just can't get anywhere else. And you know what we do on the BTSN, that's My JBN. Download it, get all your information, check out all the shows, plethora of shows, whether it's Charles on Saturday getting you ready for your game day as he gets into it, as we start things off on Sunday, closing you out as you just had this show, and then obviously all the things throughout the week with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Tuesday and Thursday at 6, ONG Strike Zone, as we just continue to give you much love and updates. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the college HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop, obviously with BJ Jones and Joshua Sims Sr. But you talking about academics here? Man, it don't get any better. If you're not going to school, that's not our fault. We bring you in the lab. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 Central Standard Time, and Sunday morning at 9 o'clock before you jump off and go to church. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. For some of y'all getting your second swig to either cheer your victory from yesterday or drown out your sorrows. As they say on our intro show, you know how we do it in terms of what goes on. I think Mike is at it. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big and continue to move forward. Charles?
Horse.
DJ?
Lecture.
Joshua?
Class dismissed.
Yes, sir. Mike, since you're drinking, I don't even want to get you in trouble.
Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach you.